y'all better fear living God, Elohim, God of Israel. We in these streets trying to tell them out here. Hey, pull up that new report. This is Jacob's Trouble, here to brew report. No vacations or no new resorts. Let's see if you aboard this ride. When God holds you accountable, when them hedges that flew off and now demons surrounding you, them letters I grew off my DNA, numbers in my format. I'm from the dust, a living soul, not meant to be a doormat. Yes, I got the strength of a horseback. When I'm talking digits, ain't a Forbes check. I need more of that pumping in my veins. The likeness of the living God, the image of his name. Let the seals loose, the famine come, a penny for the grain. My people better get on point before they be the slain. It's a fool's choice to do moist. Yes, a crime, it leads to penitentiaries. Messages go up my spine, sticking to my memory. Gunsmen use 100 times, and that's before the century. Nice. I wish Israel would just listen. Just give the ball to Air Jordan, passing it there, Scottie Pippen. Put you time out in the corner before they saying good written. You playing like a free agent, but he gon' wait till you listed. You know the harlot is gifted, but she playing with fire, thinking the punishment cease because she know his desire won't be a covenant of peace. Forgiveness so obsolete. Wanna have a shootout? He'll take you right to the streets. This is Jacob's Trouble, here to brew report. No vacations or no new resorts. Let's see if you are bored. Don't you see the likeness of the living God? Better be the likeness of the living God. This is Jacob's Trouble, here to brew report. No vacations or no new resorts. Let's see if you are bored. Don't you fear the likeness of the living God? Better be a soldier for the living God. We just got news from the Brews in the Hood. Another exclusive. We out of here, Jake.
Power off.
All right, shalom, shalom, family. We are back, and we are here to finish up this last or the finale of the series of the major prophets of God. And now we are in the book of Daniel. And so what we're going to really focus on, which has been the spirit, seems like this particular week and weekend of the end times. Because we here, brothers and sisters, right? We are here. Now we still, of course, we still got things that, so we still got some time left, but overall we're here. This thing is pretty much over. And so one thing I want to stress, though, that I have been stressing is that this is not a time to get filled and consumed with fear. This is the time to really get educated on what you need to do and be prepared so you don't have to be scared, right? That's why you don't have to be scared, because you're prepared for what's to come. If I have the future right in this book, I should be prepared on what's to come, unless I'm just slacking off. And that is what we don't need to be doing, brothers and sisters, right? So this will be the major prophets of God, the finale, the book of Daniel, the road to the end times. Once again, this is the major prophets of God, the book of Daniel, the road to the end times. And so, brothers and sisters, Daniel was a very important prophet because he let us know what was going to happen in the end times. And pretty much when he came on the scene, he showed us about the Gentile dynasty, or who they call the European dynasty, brothers and sisters, right? And what he showed us is a time frame that was going to last from about 605, starting with Nebuchadnezzar, all the way down to our time, brothers and sisters, right? So that head of gold in the beginning was 605 BC. So Daniel's prophecy started in 606 BCE, which was the third year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. And he died roughly, give or take 2 or 3 years, around 434, between like 437 and 434 BCE. And so we want to understand that these are prophecies, like we try to stress to people. These are prophecies, brothers and sisters, right? And it's not history. It's not something that was found down the road and then all of a sudden now it's still, or it's referring to history that came before it. Because if that's the case, we know we had the book of Daniel during the Greek captivity, brothers and sisters, right? For sure. In the Septuagint, the book of Daniel was in the Bible, brothers and sisters. So you can't say that this is not prophesying the future. So we're going to start this at Daniel, the first chapter. Daniel, the first chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. Daniel, we are going to start at verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, and part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, into the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
Now, once again, we're establishing that this was on the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, around the time Nebuchadnezzar came onto the scene and he started invading all these civilizations, brothers and sisters. And then it says Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came into Jerusalem and besieged it. Verse 3, go ahead.
And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, and he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes.
All right, so we're going to see why. Remember, brothers and sisters, these kings, they know who you are, so don't ever think they don't know who you are or they're not watching what's going on, because they are, brothers. All right, verse 4, go ahead.
Children at home with no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning and knowledge, and understanding science, as such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans.
Right, so look at that, brothers and sisters, right? Why was he looking for the children of Israel? Because these children in whom was no blemish, these particular children, because everybody is not under this category, but they know that as an Israelite that knows who you are, you have this type of knowledge with you, brothers and sisters, right? So it said children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So they understand that you have the wisdom of God, brothers and sisters, right? They understand, the higher ups know that, right? Skip down to verse 6 and go ahead.
Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
All right, so get specific, they were really pointing to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, right? But we are still part of that same bloodline, brothers and sisters. So they, in these last days, they're going to be looking for us for that same purpose, right? Tell me what's going on. God has sent me a message, or I've been reading in this book, and I want to know what the interpretation is. Go ahead.
Verse 7, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah Shadrach, and to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego.
All right, so now we understand that it is Daniel and his companions, brothers and sisters, that's in Babylon that's going through this. But specifically, Daniel is going to be the one prophesying, right? So let's go to the 2nd chapter. Daniel, the 2nd chapter. And we are going to start at verse 1. Daniel, the 2nd chapter. And we're going to start at verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him.
All right, so we're going to get into Nebuchadnezzar dreamed a dream, right? And so Daniel is about to interpret this dream, but before Daniel comes into the picture, let's see what's going on in this story, right? Go ahead, my brother.
Verse 2. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king.
Right. So he didn't hired all of these so-called wise men, the magicians, the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and they're not going to be able to answer him, brothers and sisters. That lets you know that people will go to these other schools of thought, astrology, and all this other stuff dealing with the constellations and the horoscopes and the magicians, people that do these magic tricks. They don't got the wisdom of God, brothers and sisters. They don't. So do not put your trust into them. Put your trust into God, right? Keep going.
And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream.
Right. So the dream troubled him. So we're going to get into what that dream is. Skip down to verse 6 and go ahead.
Verse 6. But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof.
Go ahead.
They answered again and said, let the king tell his servant the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it.
All right, when they heard them rewards, they just knew they was going to be able to interpret this dream, brothers and sisters, right? Now, they were probably able to do some other things and answer questions for him, because that's why he got them there. Obviously, they did something. But brothers and sisters, they can't do what he is asking, because God appointed a special people to deliver his message to mankind, brothers and sisters, and that is us. So this particular time, these magicians and sorcerers and things, they're not going to be able to answer these questions. Go ahead, my brother.
Oh, yeah, verse 6.
Verse 7.
Verse 7. Then they answered again and said, let the king tell his servant the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it.
Go ahead.
And the king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me.
Go ahead.
But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but a one decree for you.
Right.
For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me.
Oh, so you got the incentive there, but then you got the punishment there. So you better get that. I'm gonna reward you for doing what you're supposed to do, that I hired you for, which is to interpret things that I need you to interpret. But if you don't, you're going to be considered a people of lying lips and lying tongues and corrupt words that comes out of your mouth. And so now you're going to get punished for it, right? Go ahead.
But verse 9, the Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean.
Right. So he's saying, man, there is not, they were right about that. There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. In this particular case, there isn't. There is not a man that is going to know this, right? So it's got to be coming from somebody appointed from God, brothers and sisters, in order for this to be interpreted. Go ahead.
And it is a rare thing that the king require it, and there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh.
Go ahead.
For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon.
Go ahead.
And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain.
Right. So now they want to kill him because they think they fraudulent, right? They were fraudulent anyway. But now it's a serious thing going on here, brothers and sisters. And now it's time for them to show and improve their wisdom, their knowledge, and their understanding, but they can't do it. So now, since they can't do it, get down to verse 17 and go ahead.
Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions.
Go ahead.
That they would desire mercies of God, of the God of heavens, concerning this secret.
Go ahead.
That Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon.
Right. So Daniel went back. He heard this thing, and he went back and told Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah the matter and what was going on. Hey, man, we have to figure this thing out. Otherwise, we're going to get killed, right? But of course, they prayed. They're going to pray to the Lord, and then he's going to give them an answer, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven.
Go ahead.
Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of the God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changed the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding.
Go ahead.
He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him.
Right. Or in other words, all wisdom and all the power that is going on in this world, all the choices as far as the kings being set up and the kings being set down, is all through the power of God, brothers and sisters. Right? Go ahead.
I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desire of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter.
Go ahead.
Therefore Daniel went into Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation.
Right. So God gives us the wisdom, brothers and sisters, to be able to sit down with the kings of the world and deal with them, brothers and sisters, right? Remember, we are a people or princes that have power with God and man and have prevailed. That is what Israel means, brothers and sisters, right? Skip down to verse 26 and go ahead.
The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof?
Go ahead.
Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king had demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets and make it known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days.
All right, so this is dealing with, of course, the latter days. So that is what God is showing Nebuchadnezzar, what is going to come in the latter days. Go ahead.
Thy dream and the vision of the head upon the bed are these. As for these, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed. What should come to pass hereafter? And he that revealeth secrets make it known to thee what shall come to pass.
Go ahead.
But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living.
All right, so people need to understand that just because you know this book, you can know it front to back, but there is no wisdom that you possess that is yours, brothers and sisters. This is all coming from God, right? All of it, right? Go ahead.
We're in the middle of verse 30. But for their sakes, that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart.
All right, so let's get into what did he dream that troubled him so much, brothers and sisters. Right. Right, go ahead.
Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible.
Go ahead.
This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay.
So he went all the way down. First, we're dealing with the image head was of fine gold. This is the Babylonian Empire, as we're going to see. His breast and his arms of silver. This is the Medo-Persian Empire. His belly and his thighs of brass. This is the Greek Empire. His legs of iron. This is the beginning of the Roman Empire, brothers and sisters, when there was nobody stopping them or anything that anybody could do to stop their power from growing. They were running through everybody, right? And now you got the iron, the feet, part of iron and part of clay, which now you're dealing with the, after the Roman Empire collapsed, which we're going to get into, you're dealing with the Byzantine Empire and the Germanic tribes all the way down to the European Common Market, brothers and sisters, or the EU. Go ahead, my brother.
Verse 34, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and break them to pieces.
And now this stone is Jesus. When Jesus comes back, he's going to break the Gentile dynasty and and it's going to collapse. This is the fall of Babylon, brothers and sisters. Babylon the Great will fall because that stone is going to break down or cut down that image, right? Go ahead.
Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken into pieces together and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors.
Go ahead.
And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth.
All right, so all these kingdoms, so this stone, which is Jesus, made these civilizations collapse, ended Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great has fallen, and now this stone will become a great mountain. In other words, Christ's kingdom will spread throughout the entire earth, brothers and sisters, right? So this is what this is dealing with. Go ahead.
This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king.
Go ahead.
Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heavens hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven had he given into thine hand, and had made thee ruler over them all. Thou art his head of gold.
Right. So this head of gold was that Babylonian empire under King Nebuchadnezzar, brothers and sisters. This is the kickoff, right? So we didn't got past that. Now we're going into the Medo-Persian Empire. Go ahead, my brother.
And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
All right, so after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. This is the Medo-Persian Empire. And then another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. This is Greece coming in with Alexander the Great, and they took over the entire earth, brothers and sisters, right? Verse 40, go ahead.
And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise.
So we're going to see that this is dealing with, when the start of this dealing with Caesar Augustus all the way down to 235, when now the Roman Empire is moving towards its collapse, and then eventually collapses in 476. This is what we're going to see eventually. Go ahead.
And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with murky clay.
Now, don't get it twisted. The Roman Empire, even when the collapse of the Roman Empire comes, it's still going to be strong, but it's not going to be as strong as it once was. This is what we're going to get into with the 10 horns, because these 10 horns tried to revive the Roman Empire back to the iron stage, brothers and sisters. They didn't want it to be clay anymore. Hey, we want it to be totally iron like it was. We want that peace and that rulership and authority over the entire world like it was. And they're going to get it, brothers and sisters. We haven't gotten there yet. And that's how you know, even though we are in the last days, even though all of this stuff is happening, brothers and sisters, how do we know that we're not at the end? Because Rome didn't get that power back yet. When you see that happening, then it's time to really be aware, right? Once again, we're not scared. We are prepared, right? Go ahead.
And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay.
So they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, meaning all these foreigners going to start ruling or coming in and ruling over the Roman Empire. But because they're not natural Italians, brothers and sisters, this is not going to work, right? That's why most unlikely the 10th horn, the one we are waiting on, most unlikely he's going to be an Italian, but we don't know, right? That is most unlikely. But you had the French, the Germans, you had all these type of different Germanic tribes ruling the Roman Empire, brothers and sisters, and they were not natural Italians, right? Go ahead.
Verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Right. So that's why you have in Revelations that the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ, right? Because in the days of kings, these kings that we're in now, brothers and sisters, is when we're going to see the return of Christ, right? Let us continue. Let's go to Daniel, the 7th chapter. Now we're going to get more in depth with the story. Now we're going to bring the 10 horns into play. Daniel, the 7th chapter. Daniel, the 7th chapter. And we are going to start at verse 1. Daniel, the 7th chapter. And we are going to start at verse 1. Daniel 7 and verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, go ahead and read.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and vision of his head upon his head. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters.
Right, go ahead.
Daniel spake and said, I saw my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strode upon the great sea.
All right, so the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Let's see what this is. Go ahead.
And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
Skip down to verse 17 and go ahead. Let's see what these beasts, these four great beasts, let's see who they are. Go ahead.
These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth.
Right, so these are actually kingdoms, right? So these great beasts, which are four kings or kingdoms which shall arise out of the earth. And the sea is the people, brothers and sisters, right? So four great beasts shall rise from amongst the people, right? Go ahead.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and forever and ever.
Right. So people are sitting here like, well, we've been waiting on Jesus to come back all this time. How you know he's going to come back? People don't have the timeline, right? The prophetic timeline, right? Because we know that this stuff has to happen. The 10 horns have to come by. So if you don't know about the 10 horns, brothers and sisters, you're going to be sitting here like, well, when is Jesus coming back? He's telling you these kings have to set up, and all these events have to come to pass before he comes, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going, my brother.
Verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue of his feet with his feet.
Right. So this is that fourth beast, that Roman beast, brothers and sisters. That was the strongest beast out of all of them, brothers and sisters. This beast was different, right? This beast, even though the Roman Empire collapsed, it never left you. The stronghold never left you. It may have left you physically, but it did not leave you spiritually. You're still under the Roman Empire, right? Through the Catholic Church, right? Go ahead.
And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth, and that spake very great things.
Go ahead.
Whose look was more stout than his fellow.
Right, it's talking about, so you got these 10 horns, these 10 rulers or kings that are going to try to revive the Roman Empire once the collapse comes, brothers and sisters, right? And then it says another one came up. Now, this is the Pope or the papacy, brothers and sisters, right? And before whom 3 fell. And so with the help of the papacy, you had the kings that were ruling at that time pluck out these 3 or take down these 3 who fell, which we're going to find out was the Herodians, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals, right? Go ahead.
I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them.
Go ahead.
Until the Ancient of Days came, the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High.
All right, so you got both of them, the Father and the Son, are Ancient of Days. Why? Because they're both God, brothers and sisters, and they've both been around for eternity, right? Keep going.
Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth,
right?
Which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces.
Remember, the fourth kingdom that ruled the whole world by themselves, brothers and sisters. No other kingdoms have done that, right? So Babylon, Neo-Babylon, more specifically, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome ruled the whole world by themselves at the time where they got that they ruled, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
And 24, verse 24, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
So he shall be diverse, talking about this Pope. He gonna be diverse from the first 10 kings, brothers and sisters. He gonna be diverse, and he gonna take down 3 of them, which is the Herodians, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals. Go ahead.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and of times and dividing of time.
All right. So the one problem that people have with this particular part is that, well, before the end times, he already thought to change times and laws. Yeah, but he's not going to enforce it like he's going to do in these last days, brothers and sisters, right? And this is a time, and the dividing of time. This is 1,260 years. 1,260 days, or 3.5 years, right? And that he was going to speak great words against the Most High. What are those great words? He's going to say everything and teach you to do everything contrary to what's in the word, right? Go ahead.
But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to devour it until the end.
To consume and to destroy until the end. Verse 27, go ahead.
And the kingdom and dominion and greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given unto the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him.
Right. So once again, we're going to go from the Medo-Persian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, to the Medo-Persian Empire, to the Greek Empire, to the Roman Empire. Then Rome is going to collapse. And then we're going to have 10 kings that's going to come, and they're going to try to revive the Roman Empire back to its glory days as iron. And then after the 10th one, then you're going to see Christ come back, and then the saints are going to rule over the world, brothers and sisters, right? So that's how the end is going to come. And guess what? That's happening. That's been happening, and that was happening before that was prophesied. I'm sorry. That was prophesied before it came to pass. I'm sorry. It was prophesied before it came to pass, brothers and sisters, right? So we are going to continue. Now we're going to get into the actual history. Hold on, bear with us, brothers and sisters. It's over here. What is? So, hold on, we come up on a little discrepancy, but that's okay. But so, to continue, the Roman Empire, brothers and sisters, so what we're really going to do is we're going to focus on the Roman Empire as far as judgment. All these other kingdoms, they came and they went, brothers and sisters. But the Roman Empire, like I said, the Roman Empire didn't go anywhere. And spiritually, they still have a stronghold on you. Simply put, you know
All right, we back down, y'all. My bad.
All right. All right, so let's go to this history. So once again, brothers and sisters, what we did is that we showed that in the fourth beast, you have the Roman Empire. The fourth beast is the Roman Empire. After these 10 horns come and these 10 rulers come and they revive the Roman and they try to revive the Roman Empire, the last horn is going to actually revive the Roman Empire, and he's going to bring it back to the Iron Age. So we're gonna show when the Roman Empire, how it looked in the Iron Age, and this is going to show you how it's going to look in the future, right? So until we got to that point, we're not at the end yet, right? We're still in the beginning of sorrows, right? But we're getting there, and this is the time to prepare for all of these things, right? So we're going to read. I want you to read with them. We're going to read here, and we're going to get some understanding of when the Roman Empire got this power, how it looked when it had the power, and what happened when it lost the power, brothers and sisters, right? All right, whenever you get there. So this is from the Four Winds of Heaven, by one of our beloved camps, the Israel of God. Shout out to them. And this is the Four Winds of Heaven, page 16, dealing with the 10 horns. Go. Whenever you get there, you can go ahead and read, my brother.
With the fall of Egypt went the last vestige of once great Greek Empire. Octavian was given the title Augustus, and from that time on, Rome was no longer called the Roman state, but the Roman Empire. And was the undisputed possessor of all known civilization.
Right. So Rome, this is why we say it didn't really start. That iron period didn't really start until Caesar Augustus. Why? Because Greece still had rulership over Egypt. Now, once Greece lost Egypt, once Greece lost Egypt and Rome took over Egypt, now Rome is the undisputed possessor of all known civilizations. Now we didn't start it, right? When it becomes the Roman Empire, right? Go ahead.
The supreme ruler was no longer called dictator, but emperor.
Go ahead.
Which was the head of the fourth beast.
Right. So the emperor, once the kings are called emperor, we're here now, right? We're at the iron period of the fourth beast. Go ahead.
With the head, a succession of emperors in place, the Roman Empire enjoyed quiet order and eternal peace. And was in control from 31 BC to 235 AD.
Right. So once again, the Roman Empire enjoyed quiet order and internal peace. In other words, nobody challenged them, brothers and sisters. Nobody tried to wage war because they already got through all those periods, right? They made their stamp before Augustus came. After Augustus, wasn't nobody really trying to deal with them like that, right? So from 31 BC to 235 AD, Rome enjoyed a quiet order and internal peace and was in control from that time. Go ahead, my brother.
Rome was not able to stop its outside attackers.
The middle path.
Oh, the middle? Okay. After 235 AD, chaos started to set in. First, from internal corruption among high officials, which weakened the empire. Then pressure from outside nations, over which they once had control. With an increasing number of civil wars, the Roman generals fighting against each other, the empire could no longer stop the advances of outside forces.
Go ahead.
Because of these internal and external problems, Rome reverted to totalitarianism. And that's when cruel treatment of the public set in. The suffering became unbearable.
Right. So cruel rulership basically is totalitarianism, brothers and sisters. So it says after 235 AD, chaos started to set in. First, from the internal corruption among high officials, which weakened the empire. Then pressure from outside nations over which they once had control. So there's no longer that internal peace and quiet order. Now, Most High said that this is going to happen, brothers and sisters. Guess what? They can't stop it from happening, right? So it also said that they were the Roman generals were fighting against each other. The empire could no longer stop the advances of outside forces. Because of these internal and external problems, Rome reverted to totalitarianism, and that's when cruel treatment of the public set in. The suffering became unbearable, right? So this is how Christianity is going to be able to slip in, because the suffering in Rome was starting to become unbearable and people were being treated with cruelty, right? Go ahead, my brother.
Because of excessive cruelty, Romans started to turn to a religion that stressed love and charity.
Oh, that sounds familiar. So the Romans started to turn to a religion that stressed love and charity. Y'all recognize that Christ came in the beginning of the Iron Period, brothers and sisters, right? Because he was born up under Caesar Augustus. So he came in the beginning, setting his kingdom up as far as spiritually, and then eventually going all the way down into setting his kingdom up naturally, which is going to be the government of Israel, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
It promised redemption, resurrection, and in the afterlife, happiness unattainable on earth.
Go ahead.
Until it became worldly with the exercise of power. Christianity to them meant alienation from life, total alienation.
Go ahead.
There were many other religions in the empire, but when Constantine I rose to power, he supported Christianity. As soon as Christianity was recognized, laws for the observance of Sunday as the Christian Sabbath day were enacted. Constantine in 321 AD prohibited all businesses on that day. Prohibited all business on that day, except necessary agricultural labor. Constantine died in 337 AD, receiving a Christian baptism before his death.
And of course, because Constantine had a political agenda, brothers and sisters, he wanted to make sure that the pagans and the Christians came together under one umbrella, right? And so what he did is he took all the pagan religions at the time, Saturnalia, the winter solstice, etc., and then he put Jesus' name on it, basically, right? And that's how we have the Christianity that we know today, right? Go ahead.
Rome was not able to stop its outside attackers. It finally collapsed in 476 AD when its last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Heruli under the leadership of Otacus. The first of the Germanic tribes to sack the rule of the Roman state. I use the word state because the empire had long since fragmented and Rome had lost control of the world.
All right, so now it went from the Roman state back. It went from the Roman state to the Roman Empire, back to the Roman state, as far as the power and the condition of the empire, brothers and sisters, right? And so we're gonna do a brief breakdown of the 10 horns. We're not gonna make this too complicated, so the people can follow along. So remember, when Greece got taken down, just so we can have some context, Greece got taken down because they lost Egypt. Rome became the undisputed possessor of all the known civilizations. It had quiet order and internal peace from 31 BC to 235 AD. Then, because the Roman officials started becoming corrupt, then you had generals fighting against each other, outside attackers coming in. Now you see the collapse, not the final collapse, but the beginning of the collapse in 235 with the Roman Empire. Eventually, it became too unbearable because the people were getting cruel treatment. Then what ends up happening is this religion comes along, stressing love and charity, and that is why it was so attractive at that time, and people flocked to it. It was really good when Constantine came along. He made it acceptable for pagans and believers alike. But of course, those people end up not really being believers because they went ahead and went under the polluted version of Christianity. Now the Germanic tribes start coming in 476 when Odoacer of the Herulians took down Romulus Augustulus, and now we are seeing the empire collapse, become back into the state. And also when this happened, this is the beginning of what they call the Dark Ages, brothers and sisters, or the Dark Ages being the Catholic corruption. Some say the Dark Ages is when you didn't have really any real historical things going on, or the history in here is lost to us. But it really is talking about the Catholic corruption on the face of the earth, right? And so we're going to keep going. Now we're going to actually deal with the actual horns. So this is the four winds of heaven once again by the Israel of God, one of our beloved camps. And we're going to start at page 20. And this is just a brief breakdown, brief description. Go ahead, my brother.
The first three horns that were plucked were the Herulians, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals. Odoacer deposed the last Roman emperor in 476 AD and governed Italy as a representative of the emperor of the East, thus becoming the first foreign ruler to govern a Roman state in Italy.
All right, so this is the Ostrogoths, and Odoacer. You know, Odoacer was really the ruler of the Herulians. I'm sorry, but he had some authority over the Ostrogoths. But he was really the ruler of the Herulians, right? And so the Herulians come in. We're going to see what happened to them as we go through this breakdown, right? Go ahead.
King Theodoric II.
So this is coming from page 21, right? Go ahead.
King Theodoric II led his Ostrogoths into Italy in 493 AD and besieged the Herulians. The Ostrogoths, after vanquishing the Herulians, became the second foreign power to rule the Roman state in Italy.
Go ahead.
Eventually, the Vandals came into power.
All right, so now the Herulians come after they vanquished the Ostrogoths come under King Theodoric II, and after vanquishing the Herulians, they became the second foreign power to rule the Roman state in Italy. Remember, it says that they were going to be mingled with the seed of men. We're seeing these Germanic tribes come in, these foreign rulers come in, but why couldn't it have the power it once had? Because they're not natural Italians, brothers and sisters, right? Everybody before that pretty much were Romans. They were actual Romans, right? Go ahead.
They not only ruled Italy, but also took over Roman Africa, with the exception of Bovia and Circa Constantine. The Germanic tribes were under the Arian version of Christianity, and the Romans were Catholics.
Right. So now you got these different versions of Christianity, and that's also going on, making it even more of a conflict between these nations, right? So it says the Germanic tribes were under the Arian version of Christianity, and the Romans were Catholics, right? So if you want to do, we're not going to go into a description about that, but the Arians came from Arius, who was one of the major people that was debating in the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, brothers and sisters, right? Now we're going to page 22. So now we got from the Herulians, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals. These three were plucked out by their roots. That's why it's really hard to find any history from them, because they got plucked up by their roots, brothers and sisters, right? So that is the three, and the Pope helped Justinian, because the Pope came along when the Ostrogoths came, and then the Pope ended up helping Justinian take all of three down, right? Go ahead.
From page 22. Justinian, the next ruler over Rome of the East, waged war with the Vandals, and they were defeated in 533 AD.
Right, so now they're taken out, and now the three horns have been plucked up by their roots, right? Go ahead.
Justinian was hell-bent on reestablishing the unity of the empire, and was from the Eastern Orthodox side of Christianity.
Right, so he was from the Eastern Orthodox side of Christianity, brothers and sisters, right? So Justinian would be the fourth horn. Now, people want to make him the little horn, but that's not true, brothers and sisters. He is the fourth horn, or the fourth ruler that tried to revive the Roman Empire. It was not, he was not the little horn, right? Go ahead.
Page 24. From the time of Constantine, the Roman Empire looked upon Byzantine emperors as the head of the Christian church.
Go ahead.
But in 800 AD, Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne, king of the Franks, as Holy Roman Emperor. He was crowned emperor on December 25th, 800 AD.
All right, that's something. When it became the Holy Roman Empire under Charlemagne, it was on Christmas. Y'all see how all this stuff is going? They know what they're doing, brothers and sisters. They really know what they're doing, right? But we want to keep our children and our families in these Christmas celebrations that Constantine took from the pagans in the other nations, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead, my brother.
The Italians were happy because there wasn't an emperor in the West since 476.
Right, so there was not an emperor in the West since Odoacer came on the scene, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going, my brother.
Finally, Pope John VII asked Otto the Great to come to Italy for war.
And this is on page 25, right? Go ahead.
Otto was crowned king of Italy, of Pavia in 952 AD.
Uh-huh.
And emperor of Rome in 962 AD.
So I want y'all to just look at the pattern. Now we done went from Charlemagne, he's the 5th horn. Then we're going to Otto the Great, which is the 6th horn. The point of all this is these men came and they tried to revive the Roman Empire back to the strongest it's ever been, which was from 31 BC to 235 AD. These men were trying to get the Roman Empire back to that state, to being an empire. And that's another thing. It's going to become an empire. That's why you're going to have a one world religion and things like that, because it's going to turn back into an empire, brothers and sisters, instead of it being the state. Go ahead.
His reign inaugurated the Holy Roman Empire. Founded principle: one pope, one emperor.
Right. That's why you're going to have, when you go into Revelations 13, you got a beast that had 2 horns, right? And that is the Pope and the Emperor, right? That started under Otto the Great, the principle of there being one Pope and one Emperor. So we're seeing at Otto the Great, Otto the Great, that the Pope is starting to gain more and more power throughout the ages. But of course, the Pope had issues with the emperors, and they were fighting back and forth, and we're going to see that going all the way down to Mussolini, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
In the 1500s, Charles V rose to power.
And this is on page 26. Go ahead.
He also retorted the Papal States
my bad, that's supposed to be restored.
Restore. Okay. He also restored the Papal States to Catholic rule,
and
did more towards restoring the Roman Empire than any other ruler since Charlemagne.
All right, so this is Charles V, right? Now, what's crazy is at this time, Charles V come, then you got the Protestant Reformation that comes right after him about 17 years later, and that whole war started with the Catholics and the Protestants. This is one of the major reasons why our beloved elder, he had prophesied 40 years ago that Britain was going to get out of the EU. People were probably looking at him like he was crazy, but we just seen that happened a few years ago with the Brexit, brothers and sisters, right? And so Charles V rose to power. He also restored the Papal States to Catholic rule and did more towards restoring the Roman Empire than any other ruler since Charlemagne, right? So all of this stuff, once again, is showing you that these men tried to revive the Roman Empire, right? Go ahead.
Page 27. Early in 1797, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded the Papal States. He became Napoleon I, Emperor of the Franks. Emperor of France, and in 1805 made himself king of Italy / Rome.
He made himself king of Italy / Rome, right? So this is Napoleon Bonaparte invaded the Papal States, right? Once again, these emperors were going to war with the Pope, brothers, the Papal States or the papacy, brothers and sisters, right? Now we're going to get into Benito Mussolini, who is the 9th horn, or the 9th person that revived the Roman Empire, brothers and sisters. And he is going to make a treaty with the Papal States and give them their own city, which is the Vatican, right? Go ahead.
All right, from page 28 and 29. In 1861, after the revolutionaries achieved most of their goals, Italy was proclaimed a kingdom, and Rome became its capital. In the atmosphere of unrest, a renegade socialist, Benito Mussolini, launched his anti-communist movement, the Fascist Party, which took its name from the ancient Roman emblem of fasces, which symbolized authority and unity.
Right. So if you didn't know, he brought the fascist party on the scene, and the fascist party, it was named after an emblem of fascist, which is a symbolized authority and unity, brothers and sisters. So all this stuff going right back to Rome, right? Go ahead.
Mussolini ordered his followers to march on Rome in 1922.
Mm-hmm.
The king gave way to his show. To force and called on Mussolini to form a government. He gradually transformed Italy into a dictatorship.
Go ahead.
On February 11, 1929, a deal was made that ended the conflict between Italian states and papal states.
All right, so a deal was made in the time of Benito Mussolini, excuse me, on February 11th, 1929, that ended the conflict between the Italian states and the papal states, right? Go ahead.
The papacy renounced all claims to the former papal territories in exchange for the creation of the independent state of Vatican City.
Right. So now they got the papal states and the territories that they were in, that they were fighting for. A deal was made, and now this is how they got Vatican City, brothers and sisters, right? But as we know, what we're going to see in Revelations, this was prophesied to happen before it happened, brothers and sisters. If this is not God showing us how things are going to go, I don't know what is. People are just going to keep denying what's going on, right? Go ahead.
All right, from page 30, the final spot, we know that the 10th and the last horn will come from the European Common Market.
Oh, will come from the EU, brothers and sisters. And at that point in time, it will become, in its totality, the revised Roman Empire that had peace and order as far as people challenging them and doing things of that nature. It's going to come back, brothers and sisters. This is a big sign that we are really at the end when this happens. When the Roman Empire gets that power back that we just broke down, that is when you know, oh, this is really it, right? They haven't gotten there yet, brothers and sisters, but be on the lookout for that. But once again, what should you be doing even now? Preparing spiritually and eventually preparing physically, right? And so we're going to go back to the Bible. We just dealt with the 10 horns in its completeness, brothers and sisters, and we showed how the Roman Empire was in its iron phase and how it got to the iron mixed it with mirrored clay phase, right? So now we're going to go to Daniel 11. I'm sorry. Daniel 11. So after this happens, what is going to happen, right? Daniel 11 and verse 35. Daniel 11 and verse 35. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed.
So this is going from the Greek captivity with the Maccabean revolt. And it says that this is going to happen all the way until the time of the end, brothers and sisters, right? And if you go on my page, I have a lesson called The Maccabees, the Precursor to the Great Tribulation. What they went through is a forerunner showing us what we're going to go through in the future, right? If we don't make it to the place of safety, of course, right? Verse 36, go ahead.
And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods.
Oh, it sounds like that little horn to me, right? That little horn that was going to speak great words against the Most High, right? He's also called a king, brothers and sisters, because he is a king, right? Go ahead.
And shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done.
Go ahead.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God. But he shall magnify himself above all.
Right. So you see that the popes and things have taken a vow of celibacy, brothers and sisters, right? So he's not going to have the desire of women, and he's not going to regard any God. Why? He's already saying he's the vicar of Christ. He's replacing God. So he's not going to regard any God for real, brothers and sisters. It says, why? For he shall magnify himself above all, right? So if you're saying you're the replacement of Christ, you didn't magnify yourself above all, brothers and sisters, right? But he's really gonna do that when the abomination of desolation, which is him, is going to set up in Jerusalem, right? And then he's gonna be worshipped as a god, right? Go ahead.
Verse 38. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces,
Which is Satan, right? Go ahead.
and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things.
Go ahead.
Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God,
Right, go ahead.
whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for a gain.
Right, so that's that other. He's gonna make it seem, brothers and sisters, like he's still worshiping that other Jesus, but he really has magnified himself over him, right? So we got to look at these things, right? You have to look at the fact that the Roman Empire is going to become the Roman Empire again, brothers and sisters, right? Under the banner of the European Common Market. They're going to have that same power. That's when you know this stuff really kicked in. Then you're going to see the abomination of desolation, which is the Pope. He is going to go into Jerusalem and be worshipped as a god, right? Pretending like he is worshiping another god, right? Go ahead, my brother.
Verse 40. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind.
Go ahead.
With chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over.
All right, so we see this stuff. Taking shape right now, brothers and sisters, right? So since we know this, we have to prepare, right? Go ahead.
He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon.
And why is that? Because we're eventually going to go into the place of safety, and these are going to be the tribes that's going to be over there. And in those lands, Moab going to be a covert, and in those lands, brothers and sisters, is going to be safety for the saints of God, brothers and sisters, right? So we're going to see now in the New Testament, it's talking about the same thing, brothers and sisters, right? It's talking about the same thing, right? Matthew 24 and verse 6. Matthew 24 and verse 6. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
Right, so we're hearing about all this, the wars and rumors of wars. Pay attention to one war that's specific, and that's between Russia and the EU. That is the war you want to pay attention. All the wars and rumors of wars that come, hey, that's just wars and rumors of wars. But the one you want to pay attention to that's going to lead us into the end until Christ's return is Russia and the EU, which is the East and the West. Russia being the one that's going to be ruling over the East and taking down Babylon, which is the West, right? Go ahead.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places.
So you seeing these pestilences happen like with the COVID-19, brothers and sisters, but that pestilence is happening when Russia and the EU is having friction with each other, brothers and sisters, right? You see these famines on their way, brothers and sisters, right? And you see these shelves, they're clearing out, brothers and sisters. The farmers and things, they're shutting down their farms. We showed all of that in the lesson we did, which was the beginning of sorrows. It's still happening to this day, brothers and sisters, right? And that famine is creeping on in, right? So you got to understand all of this stuff that's happening with this specific war is showing us the end. We're going into those end times, right? Go ahead.
Verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrow.
But all these are just the beginning of sorrows, because once again, that Roman, the Roman state has to become the Roman Empire once again, or the revised Roman Empire under the EU, and it has to have that same power it had from 31 BC to 235 AD, right? Go ahead.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted,
Uh-huh.
and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
So remember, that's going to come, right? But don't be afraid of it, brothers and sisters, because the Most High will protect you, right? And either way it goes, your reward is eternal life. And you have to keep your mind on that, right? Go ahead.
And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another.
Don't be surprised when you see all the stuff from the normal people, from the common people. All of a sudden, friction is just happening all over, brothers and sisters, right? And even with people that are believers, friction is gonna happen with that as well, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall wax about, the love of many shall wax cold.
Right. So because iniquity shall abound, so because sin is going to become more prevalent in the world, the love of many shall wax cold. So once again, watch the hate increase in the last days. You got to see all of this so you won't be caught off guard, right? But what is the overall message here? Go ahead.
But he that endured to the end, the same shall be saved.
So enduring into the end, right? And it's more than just enduring through the trials and tribulations. If you slip up and mess up and God's judgment is upon you, you got to endure until the end without turning away from God. And that already is, when you're being obedient, that's hard within itself. But when you slip up and mess up with God, and then he's starting to throw stuff at you as a punishment, now it's even harder, right? So the best thing to do is just be obedient to God, right? Go ahead.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
Right. And so we see in Colossians, the 1st chapter, that Paul said that he preached to every nation or every creature under the sun. But guess what? They lost it, brothers and sisters. So it got to be re-preached to all the nations of the world, because that, as we said, the dark ages, the Catholic corruption, it polluted the Christianity that we once knew, brothers and sisters, right? And so once all this happened, we're seeing all this word go out into the world. This gospel is going out into the world, brothers and sisters. Then what is going to happen? Verse 15.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoso read it, let him understand.
And for those people that want to constantly say, well, that happened already, this, that, and third, we have shown that the abomination of desolation is a title based on what the people are going to do, brothers and sisters, right? And so we have to deal with the one that's in the future, right? Which is the little horn, which is the Pope, brothers and sisters, right? And he is going to stand in the holy place, which is Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
Go ahead.
Let him which is on the housetops come down to not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
Go ahead.
And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
Go ahead.
But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day.
Why is that? Go ahead.
For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be.
Now let's just say you're saying, well, in 70 AD, this is with great tribulation started. All right, so but you got a latter day of the tribulation, brothers and sisters, but you got a one specific time, which is the time of the Antichrist, which is the time of the false beast and the false prophet, which is only 1,260 days, 3.5 years, brothers and sisters. So anyway it goes, you can't get around this stuff, brothers and sisters, right? You cannot get around it, right? So that is going to happen. When he sets in the holy place, what else is going to happen? Let's go to 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. And we got 3 more places after this. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. And we're going to start at verse 3. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. And we are going to start at verse 3. 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 3. Whenever you get there, my brother, go ahead and read.
Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, And that man of seal shall be, and the man of sin be revealed,
Oh,
the son of perdition.
So much for, well, they already preached all over the world. Yeah, but there got to be a falling away first, right? And that falling away did not happen in 70 AD, brothers and sisters, right? So we got to take that out of our head, right? But it says, this is also for the people that says, well, why didn't Christ come back and this, that, and third, and what, man, if we believe in that, he been taken all day. Where it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there be a falling away first, falling away from the truth, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So that has to happen before Christ returns. But guess what? Even though we know that he's the man of sin, the world don't know. They still think this man is holy, right? So until everybody realizes, oh, this is the man of sin, he bogus, then we ain't there yet, brothers and sisters. He's not going to come back yet. Go ahead, my brother.
Who opposed and exalted himself above all that is called God.
Oh, didn't we read that? And we read that in, what was that? We read that in Daniel the 11th chapter. I'm sorry. We read that in Daniel the 11th chapter because he was going to be magnify himself above all that is called God, brothers and sisters. Right? Go ahead.
Who opposed and exalted himself above all that is called God, or that worship, so that he is as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
So when you see this man in Jerusalem, he didn't set up, and you see this man in Jerusalem, now he is being worshipped, or he is wanting to be worshipped as a God when he sets into the holy place. Get up out of there. When you see him set up in the holy place, he's going to start being worshipped as God. Get up out of there. It's time to get to the place of safety, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead, my brother.
Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know what would hold it, that he might be revealed in this time. For the mystery of iniquity does already work. Only he who now let it will let until he be taken out of the way.
Right. So the mystery of iniquity does already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way, brothers and sisters. Taken out of the way because he's been hid in the place of safety, brothers and sisters, right? And so we have to understand that, right? That man of the man of sin, the son of perdition, will be revealed. We got to get up out of here, right? Go ahead.
Verse 8. And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
Go ahead.
Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders.
Right, go ahead.
And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved.
So if you don't receive the love of the truth that you might be saved, you're going to perish, brothers and sisters. So it's time to listen to that gospel that's being preached as a witness unto all nations, right? Let's keep going. Let's go to Revelations, the 13th chapter. Now we're going to see, we saw the 10 horns rising. Now we're going to see the formation of the EU with all these beasts combined together that form the European Economic Union. Revelations 13, and we're going to start at verse 1. Revelations 13, and we're going to start at verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy.
Right, so this beast is the revised Roman Empire now, brothers and sisters, right? With the 7 heads and 10 horns. Why? Because all the empires before it, Babylon, Medo-Persia, remember Greece had 4 heads, and then Rome, that's 7 heads. But these 10 horns are the 10 nations that's going to rule the EU at this point, right? So we got the 10 horns in Daniel, we got the 10 horns in Daniel, the 7th chapter. That was the 10 horns that was going to revive the Roman Empire. And now we got the 10 horns here which this is now the revised Roman Empire, and now we got the 10 nations ruling this revised Roman Empire. But how do we know that this is not the same beast, right? Go ahead, verse 2.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
So Babylon, Greece, and Medo-Persia, brothers and sisters, combined all together as one, right? As one, and Rome, I'm sorry, all combined together to show us the revised version of the Roman Empire. Why? Because all of this stuff, like the holidays and stuff, all this stuff came from those Gentile dynasties, brothers and sisters, that they started attaching to the name of Jesus, right? Go ahead.
And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
So Satan gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Go ahead.
And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. And his deadly wound was healed.
Right. Once again, one of the heads was the Roman head, right? And it was wounded to death. That was the collapse of the Roman Empire. And the deadly wound was healed. That will be the revision of that Roman Empire, right? Go ahead.
And all the world wondered after the beast.
Right, because now this revised empire have a religion to it that's going to be over the whole world, which is Catholicism. Go ahead.
And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast.
Go ahead.
And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Who is able to make war with this revised Roman Empire? Nobody, because as we saw, when they had that iron stage from 31 BC to 235, it was quiet order, brothers and sisters, and peace. It was quiet order and peace, brothers and sisters, right? And so it's going to be like that again, and you're going to worship that beast, and they're going to say, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? At that time, nobody, just like the beast before it, right? Go ahead.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Oh, so, well, if somebody want to play around with that time and dividing of times and Daniel, the 7th chapter, what are you going to do with this? 42 months. Because either way it goes, brothers and sisters, this stuff is so set in stone, you can't get around it, right? 3.5 years of the latter, I put that in quotes, day of the tribulation, the time of the beast and the false prophet is 42 months. You can't get out of that, right? Keep going.
Verse 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
Go ahead.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Go ahead.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world.
So this is the biggest message after you're hearing all of this. Here is a really big message, brothers and sisters. Verse 9.
If any man have an ear, let him hear.
And listen, you got to listen, y'all. You have to listen, because this stuff happened, and guess what? It's going to happen. The stuff that hasn't happened is going to happen because the stuff that was prophesied, that did happen, happened. So we got to take heed to all of this, right? We're almost done. Let's go to Revelation, the 17th chapter. Revelation 17, and we're going to start at verse 1, and we got one more place after this. Revelation 17 and verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
And there came one of the 7 angels, which had 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
That's that Catholic church, that mother church, right? And I will show the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, because this religion was used to pollute God's word, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
So in other words, with the doctrine of her idolatry. The wine is the doctrine, and fornication in this particular context is idolatry, right? So the kings of the earth have committed idolatry, and have been made drunk with the doctrine of her idolatry. Right? Go ahead.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Go ahead.
And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a gold cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
Showing that these are the cardinals, the Jesuits, and the Pope, right? And of course, that golden cup, if you ever been to Catholic Church, you know what that golden cup is that they have everybody drinking from, right? That's literal, right? But this is idolatry, brothers and sisters, straight idolatry, right? Go ahead.
And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
The mother church is the mother of harlots, brothers and sisters, right? And so what does this church do? Go ahead.
Verse 6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
And you can look up the history of the Catholic corruption during the Dark Ages until now. They killed and made martyrs out of the saints, brothers and sisters. And it's going to continue to happen, especially during Great Tribulation, right? Keep going, my brother.
And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carried her, which had the 7 heads and the 10 horns.
Right. So once again, that beast was the Roman beast that carried the Catholic Church, that carried that woman. Right. Go ahead.
And the beast that thou sawest and is not, and shall and the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose name were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
Right. So the beast that was, right. So we see the power of that beast. He did have that power. He doesn't right now, but he's going to get it back. That is what that means, brothers and sisters. Right. Keep going.
And there in the mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads and the 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
Right. So you ever heard of the 7 hills of Rome? Rome sits on 7 hills or 7 mountains. That is the 7 mountains which the woman sitteth on, brothers and sisters, right? Let's see. Skip down to verse 9 and go ahead.
And there in the mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads and the 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
Verse 12, go ahead, my bad.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet.
Yeah, that's how you know that wasn't talking of this 10 horns. Is not talking about the same 10 horns in Daniel, right? Because these 10 horns have not been given a kingdom yet. The other 10 horns were given a kingdom, brothers and sisters, right? They tried to revise the Roman Empire, but they didn't get it, right? And if you want to sit here and try to say that the Caesars were these 10 kings, well, they were given a kingdom, brothers and sisters. They lived through the Iron Period of Rome, so that can't be it. This is talking about these 10 kings that's going to rule the revised Roman Empire or the EU. Go ahead.
Verse 12, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
1 hour being 3.5 years, brothers and sisters. So we're seeing that this stuff is consistent, right? Go ahead.
These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast.
This is why our beloved elder knew that Britain was going to exit out the EU because they were not one mind with the rest of the EU, brothers and sisters. They were Protestants. The rest of it is Catholic, and you know the chapter is talking about the Catholic Church, right? So you can't be a Protestant being one mind with the Catholic Church, right? Verse 14, go ahead.
These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful.
Remember, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up his kingdom, right? So these kings shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful, right? Verse 15, go ahead.
And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
So this church sitteth over all these nations and peoples and multitudes and tongues, brothers and sisters, right? But let's see. Matter of fact, let's keep reading the whole thing. Let's see what the 10 horns gonna end up doing. Go ahead.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire.
And that's another thing. You know we're not at the end if you haven't seen this yet, brothers and sisters, right? So those 10 nations that are going to rule the EU, they're going to take down the Catholic Church, right? So we're prophesying all this. Expect it to happen, brothers and sisters. Expect it to happen. Verse 17, go ahead.
Verse 17, for God had put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled.
And Babylon will fall, brothers and sisters. You better believe that Babylon will fall. Verse 18.
And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
And this is Vatican City, brothers and sisters, where the Pope and all the folks of under his party, they dwell at, brothers and sisters. That's their safe place, where Mussolini gave them in 1929. And this is Revelations prophesying that all the way in the future, right? Let's go to the last place, which is Matthew. We're going back to Matthew 24. I should have told you to keep a marker there. So remember, you have the place of safety, brothers and sisters. But now when Christ comes back and he gathers us, he's going to also bring us to the wilderness of the people, which is in Ezekiel 20. We're not going to go there, but you can read that on your own. Ezekiel 20 shows you the end, where all of Israel going to be gathered one by one and brought to the wilderness, where they will be either purged out or you're going to go into the kingdom, brothers and sisters. This is not the place of safety. So a lot of people get that misconstrued. The place of safety, fleeing into the place of safety, is before tribulation, and immediately after tribulation is when Christ is going to gather his elect and bring them back to the wilderness. Same place, but it's at different time periods, right? Matthew 24 and verse 29. Matthew 24 and verse 29. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken.
Go ahead.
And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great authority.
Wow.
Pay great glory. I'm sorry.
Right. And why shall all the tribes mourn? Because they know, it's coming. That lion, he's coming to take down Babylon, brothers and sisters, right? So they're going to all mourn, right? Verse 31, go ahead.
And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet.
So this is the seventh trumpet, right? That's that great sound of that seventh trumpet. Go ahead.
And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
And that's when he will gather them, bring them into the wilderness. And if you are obedient, when you come under the bond of the covenant, brothers and sisters, then you will go into the kingdom, right? And so that is our finale. The major prophets of God. This is the book of Daniel, the road to the end time. So we got a whole map, brothers and sisters. This is why we need to get prepared as we're learning and growing in understanding, right? So I hope everyone got some understanding today. As always, I want to thank the Most High, Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the Holy One of Israel, who is Jesus. I am Cassius Israel, a.k.a. Kazak Ben Yehuda. I represent the Walls of Jericho, Biblical and Historical Studies, Hebrews in the Hood Media. And as always, we going to keep preaching this gospel, brothers and sisters, until the end, because we here, right? We're not at the end, but we're definitely in the beginning of sorrows. And with that, I bid you shalom.
Peace.